Welcome back to the Art and Science of Computer Technology. Today's lesson will be covering Python's built-in functions. This is going to be a multi-part lesson because of the sheer number of functions that we'll be going over. So part one for this is going to cover the slides for all the methods, and then the next part or two perhaps will cover the code breakdowns. So starting off, all these functions, the list that I got this all from, can be found at this website right here. So I pretty much, for the slides, I just wrote down the very basic summary possible for what exactly all these functions do. So if you want the full detailed list, you can go find them all right here. So starting off, absolute returns the absolute value of a number, accepts integers and floating points. Complex numbers have their magnitude returned. All returns true if all elements of an iterable are true, or if the iterable is empty. Any return true if any element of the iterable is true. Return false if the iterable is empty. ASCII return a string containing a printable representation of an object. Bin convert an integer to a binary string. Bool return a Boolean value, true or false. Breakpoint drops you into the debugger at the call site. Specifically calls sys.breakpoint. Byte array returns a new array of bytes. Bytes returns a new bytes object. Callable returns true if the object argument appears callable, false otherwise. CHR returns a Unicode character. Class method transform a method into a class method. Compile the source into a code or AST object. Code objects can be executed by exec or eval. Complex return a complex number. Delete attribute, a relative of set attribute, deletes the named attribute provided the object allows it. Dict creates a new dictionary. Dir without arguments returns the list of names in the current local scope. With an argument, attempt to return a list of valid attributes for that object. Divmod takes two non-complex numbers as arguments and returns a pair of numbers consisting of their quotient and remainder when using integer division. With mixed operand types, the rules for binary arithmetic operators apply. Enumerate return an enumerate object. Eval evaluates an expression and returns the value. Can also be used to execute arbitrary code objects, such as those created by compile. Exec supports dynamic execution of code. Filter constructs an iterator from an iterable based on which elements return true. Float returns a floating point number constructed from a number or string. Format convert a value to a formatted representation. Frozen set returns a new frozen set object. Get attribute, get attr, return the value of an object attribute, of an object's attribute. Globals return a dictionary representing the current global symbol table. Hash attribute, attr. Arguments are an object and a string. The result is true if the string is the name of one of the object's attributes, false otherwise. Hash returns the hash value of an object. Help invoke the built-in help system, intended for interactive use. Hex convert an int to a lowercase hex string. ID return the identity of an object. Input reads a line from input, converts it to a string, and returns that. Int returns an integer object constructed from a number or string, or returns 0 if no arguments. Is instance takes an object and class info. Return true if the object argument is an instance of the class info argument, or a subclass thereof. Is subclass takes class and class info as an argument. Return true if class is a subclass of class info. Iter returns an iterator object. Len, short for length, returns the length of an object. List rather than being a function, list is actually a mutable sequence type. Locals update and return a dictionary representing the current local symbol table. Map takes function, iterable, etc. Returns an iterator that applies a function to every item in the past iterator. Max return the largest item in an iterator or the largest of two or more arguments. Memory view returns a memory view object created from the given argument. Min return the smallest item in an iterable or the smallest of two or more arguments. Next retrieve the next item from an iterable by calling its next method. Object returns a new featureless object. Object is a base class, is a base for all classes. It has the methods that are common to all instances of Python classes. Oct, convert an integer to an octal string. Open a file and return a corresponding file object. Ord, given a string representing one Unicode character, returns an integer representing the Unicode code point of that character. So basically, given a string, so you pass it a Unicode character, and it will return you with a number representing one Unicode character. All right. Pow, returns the value of a number raised to a power. Print objects to a text stream. Property, return a property attribute. Range, rather than being a function, range is actually an immutable sequence type. Repr, returns a string containing a printed representation of an object. Printable object. So repr returns a string containing a printable representation of an object. Reversed, returns a reversed iterator. Round, return a number rounded to a certain precision after the decimal point. Set, returns a new set object. Set attribute, counterpart of get attribute, assigns a value to an object attribute. Slice, return a slice object. Sorted, return a sorted list from the items in an iterable. Static method, transform a method into a static method. So transforms a function in a class object to a static. All right, str, returns a string version of an object. Sums the values of an iterable. Super, return a proxy object that delegates method calls to a parent or sibling class of a certain type. Useful for accessing inherited methods that have been overridden in a class. Tuple, rather than being a function, tuple is actually an immutable sequence type. And for the next one, we have two kinds of options. So type can either take an object or a name and a basis and a dict. With one argument, return the type of an object. With three arguments, return a new type object. Vars, return the dict attribute for a module, class, instance, or any other object with a dict attribute. Zip, make an iterator that aggregates elements from iterables. Import, invoked by the import statement, used to import modules. So that's pretty much a summary of the built-in functions available in Python. As I said, we'll be covering the code examples in the following parts, but I just wanted to show this one ahead of time, and then the next one can go into code examples for all of these. So yeah, thank you very much, and have a great day.